going with this. Ben Scorz with you here with a special guest here on CGCM Rock Radio. I'm so lucky to have the lead guitarist of the Dead Daisies. And right off the bat, historically, these guys never considered themselves to be a supergroup and prefer instead to be considered a collective with all the alumni that have gone through this amazing band. So joining us from Los Angeles, California, I'm stoked to say hi to Doug Aldrich.
Hey Ben,
Thanks,
how
Doug,
are
for
you,
coming in.
man? Yeah, you're
Excellent. All right.
welcome. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate
Excellent.
it, brother.
Okay. First and foremost, it's been close to 9 years that you've been in the band. Obviously, you came into somewhat of a ready-made band, and you had no input in choosing the name of the band. Did you ever ask or made privy to how the Dead Daisies got their name? Now, there's a reason for this. So,
Yeah, I do. I do know how the Dead Daisies got the name. The original singer that started with David Lowy, I guess it was in 2012. They were writing and they were doing some gigs, playing around a little bit. I think Marco Mendoza was in the band and Richard Fortis, the original crew. And at some point, the lead singer, John Stevens, had to go into the hospital for a checkup. And
uh-huh.
immediately the doctor said, you need to make an appointment to go to the hospital and get some work done on your heart because basically you're not in good shape. You may
Right,
feel okay right now, but you're not in good shape. And if you don't do it now, you're going to be pushing up daisies.
right.
And that's the beginning of the story of the Dead Daisies, pushing up daisies out of the grave, So um, they just, they went with that, and it's a catchy name. So, immediately, I think a lot of people remember it.
Right. And that is how I got to read up on the Dead Daisies. Now I asked you this because I remember a long time ago willfully neglecting the Dead Daisies all because of the name. It wasn't heavy enough, and I had a lot to go through. So I
It's
don't know.
heavy.
I didn't know a thing about who was in the band, you know.
Yeah.
So that was my loss, but I did catch up. Okay, so that's my
All
story with
right.
the Dead Daisies. So glad I got to catch up. All right, Doug, if one was to Google you, they'd see pictures of you with Les Pauls, playing Les Pauls, one or four of them or more. um, maybe an ESP, maybe a Tele, maybe a Strat. Um, what's the oldest or most prized one of those? Is that the one you have in your hands there? Does it ever make
Th-
the
This,
stage?
this this is the oldest one actually,
Well,
but it's I haven't taken it on tour yet because it's from 1953, and
53. Yeah.
we bang around pretty hard out there on the road, so it's like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know and also something like this, it's even though this is considered a player grade, it's to me it's a lot of money, to probably most people would be a lot of money, so I don't want to get a chance to have it stolen or something, but
Exactly. You
but
took the words out of my mouth there. You
or
never know what
broken,
happens on the road.
stolen, yeah, yeah, stolen or broken or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
generally the people that are on the road are always, super kind and everything. But once in a
Yeah.
while, maybe something gets forgotten or whatever.
Yeah.
You leave it somewhere. But yeah, so but my probably another Gold Top is my favorite guitar that I have in terms of it's just solid. It just always works in the studio live. It's you would see it live at Gold Top with a black pickguard. So
Yeah.
when I bought that guitar years ago, that didn't have a pickguard, and the guy I said, I need a pickguard. I'm just used to it. I'm used to having my fingers rest on it,
Yeah.
and he stuck a black pickguard on there just temporarily.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was like, "Well, I like that. That's different." It's kind of got a throwback to the original '57 Gold Top Les Paul, and then
Right.
I affectionately named it the Black Eye Les Paul because it kind of looked like it had a black eye, and
Right.
it
Right.
tied into the headstock being black.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that Black Eye Les Paul is really my kind of go-to. It's always on tour, and I've done a bazillion shows with everybody that I've worked with that guitar.
Right. I'm partial to Les Pauls. I take a look at Dave Meniketti's one. It's like Willie Nelson's acoustic guitar. It's been through hell and back, but still plays great.
I remember that guitar. I remember when I first saw them play. I first discovered them, and like that was a little bit late, but in 1981, and that that guitar was like iconic even then. And then
Hmm.
one time I toured with Y&T back in I guess it was 2004, and I got to play that guitar. And Dave was he's just one of the nicest people
Oh,
ever,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. When you were with Lion, you were endorsed by Jackson, or you had Jackson's?
Yeah, I went through a period. I started my very first good guitar was a Gold Top Les Paul when I was a kid, and then through the years, I kind of went through the. I actually right after that ended up getting a Strat, which I played a lot for a while, and that kind of turned into what happened was is you know I moved out to Los Angeles and started getting friendly with the people at Jackson, which was actually Charvel at that time, and I wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
a Charvel neck for that guitar. I was going to put a Floyd Rose on that Strat
Ooh,
when they came out, and so I got a Charvel neck for it, and I met Grover Jackson, and then little by little, I bought a Jackson soloist, and I had heard about Jackson from seeing Randy Rhoads. He had the
yeah.
first Jackson guitar that I ever saw, but I didn't want to get like the Flying V or the
Slanted
Con
X.
yeah the Concorde shape because it was I was already like a Randy super fan, and so
Yeah.
that would have so I went with it. I ordered a Jackson that was a Strat shape and neck through, and it had humbuckers, so it sounded like a Les Paul, but it
Hmm.
had this a fast neck on it. And I went through Jackson for a long time, playing them exclusively, and they even did a signature model at one point. But then Grover eventually sold the company, and around that time, I started to kind of head back towards my classic guitars. I always
Right.
owned Les Pauls, so and I'd always record with Les Pauls,
Yeah.
but I kind of I think it was in Dio when I started playing my Les Paul live again. I played a Black Custom a lot with him.
Right. 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 Now, Doug Aldrich is a name I came to take note of way back reading Metal Edge mags, and you
Whoa,
played and toured with many bands of the '80s. And I'm going to name them like for our fans here, like House of Lords, Hurricane, Bad Moon Rising, Dio, and of course Whitesnake. I remember reading about you auditioning for Kiss. Is that
yeah,
correct? Yeah.
that is correct. Did you never hear that story?
Well, I think I did. Okay, but
I'll tell
I
it to you
think
now.
I read the article from someone who's saying that that didn't go all that well, and said that afterwards you talked to Gene and he said lose this number or something like that. But obviously you get along great with Gene, so
I get along great with all of them. I just actually just saw Paul about 4 or 5 days ago
oh,
at the yogurt shop in our neighborhood, and
okay,
he was just by himself washing his car, and I was with my daughter riding bikes, and we decided to get a yogurt, and there's Paul, and it just turns out Paul's always been he's an icon and
yeah,
always been super kind to me, and even during that time he was. But basically, no, the audition part went great. I think I was just overall. I mean, I can just tell you, I was too young to be in that band at that
all
time.
right.
I think,
Now,
you know, playing wise, they were looking for more of that kind of sound that everybody was doing. I was doing at that time. They were trying to maybe kind of get a little heavier, maybe.
maybe,
And Eric Carr saw me play, and he knew what I did, so he was excited about it.
yeah,
But I just think that overall I was just too young. I was 18, so
okay, all right. Now, for shits and giggles, Doug, what would have been your Kiss character if you did get that gig? Did you ever give that some thought? You got the demon, you got the Star Child, you got Eric, who was a raccoon, and Vinny, what was he, a pharaoh or an Egyptian? What would
I
have
don't
Doug's
know.
character been?
The sweet little lamb that
Sweet little
that got sacrificed. No,
Oh,
I don't know, man. I didn't even think about that stuff because
No.
I didn't know what their plans were. They didn't have makeup when I met them, or when Eric Carr first came to see me play. Was the first time I ever saw his face in real life, and then going to meet Gene and Paul in the studio was the first time I ever got to see them without makeup, and I felt a little bit guilty about it. It was like this is sacrilegious to see Kiss like this.
Yeah, well, yeah,
But
you're part of the privileged few there for a while.
it never even occurred to me about makeup or clothes or any of that stuff. I didn't even think about it. I
Ah,
was just in awe
I could
of
just imagine.
the biggest thing I was in awe about was like, being in a real, like a world class recording studio with them and going to a world class rehearsal place and playing through, I'm a guitar geek basically. So
Yeah.
playing through four Marshall stacks that were all for me. And that was mind blowing as meeting the guys and playing
Was
with
that
them.
at Electric Ladyland or?
No, it was out here in Los Angeles at the
Oh, it
record
was.
plant.
Okay.
At the
Okay. All right.
record plant, they were recording Creatures of the Night, and so it was a good opportunity for me to go in the studio and record with them and see how it sounded on tape, so they would have an
Oh,
idea what it sounded like. And then we went into rehearsal and played. I don't think they recorded that. I wish they
no.
had. I wish it was available.
Yeah.
We played twice together. One time in a big room that was like, massive, like a place where you'd rehearse a tour. And then the second time I went back, they called me back about a week or so later. Um, I think they were narrowing it down and stuff. And that's when I really could tell that I was nervous and like
Yeah. Yeah.
very young, very young. But it was a smaller studio in the same complex.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh man, that was something I think I knew, but I forgot throughout the years that you had auditioned for them. Now, I thought you were a Philly guy from birth, but no, you're from North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I was born in North Carolina and
Okay, good.
in just outside of Raleigh.
Yeah.
But we moved away pretty quick after that. I think I was only there for a year or two, and then
Okay.
lived in some various places. Lived in Maryland for a while, which I
Hmm.
loved growing up
Yeah.
there.
Great
And
scene.
then, yeah, yeah. And then we eventually went to Philadelphia. That's where I went to high school.
Okay. Now, John, Robbie Krabs is from Philly as well. Did your paths cross before you made your way to LA?
Yeah, they sure
Yeah.
did. We but a guy that I was basically at that time, I was just all about learning,
Right,
and
right, right.
playing with real musicians. We were every weekend at in the basement of my friend Jerry Best, his house.
Right.
His brother Tom played drums and he played bass, and we would just learn songs like left and right.
Right.
And they turned me on to a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. Like they turned me on to UFO and Rainbow
Oh,
and a bunch of
yeah.
stuff back in the '70s. But eventually, Jerry got asked to join a band called Fragile, which was
Oh, yes.
one one of the North, sorry, New Jersey club bands. They were playing Jersey a lot, and John was the lead singer, and
Yeah.
Jerry got the gig, and so they came to Jerry's house at one point to rehearse, I guess it was, and then I went and saw a gig with them play, and so I met John and
Uh-huh.
his wife or his girlfriend at that time, and John was super cool. He was like, you know, quintessential rock star. I mean, it was like, whoa, this guy, he's the lead singer and he plays guitar and he's like
Yeah.
super cool. And he was very nice, he was very traditional Philly. Like I came from North Carolina, Maryland. I was, not like your typical Philly guy, maybe.
Right,
But
right.
John is classic Philly.
Yeah.
Like he is all about.
I read about Fragile in John's amazing book. I just finished last year. The best rock or biography I've ever read is John wrote it, and so that's why it came to mind. I knew you had a bit of a stay in Philly, but I don't recall your past crossing. So thanks for that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that was back in like that was '79, I think, when I met
uh-huh.
him.
Yeah.
It's crazy that now we're playing in a band together. And,
Yeah.
we've been friends. We never worked together this whole time until the Dead Daisies in 2016 when
Now
I
that
joined
is
up.
amazing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
of all the moving and shuffling in the industry, it's amazing that it took this
It was just,
long.
it was just weird because I was in a band when John moved out to LA. I had moved out to LA in 1981. Then John came out maybe in 82 or 83. I'm not sure. Maybe around that time, 83 probably, I'd guess. And he
Mhm.
had his own band. He had a band called Angora, and they played. And I saw him again, and he was nice, but we didn't really know each other very well. And then I went to a different band. I think I was in Lion after that, and then he
Yeah.
started this. He started to Scream, and then I was in working with somebody else, and he was in Motley Crue at that point. And then it was just like we kept
Yeah. N-
hopscotching over each other. But eventually, when the Dead Daisies were looking for a new guitar player, and I got recommended by Richard Fortis, I looked, I was like, well, I already knew about the band. I knew
Yeah.
about them. I'd seen that they had done Midnight Moses. And funny thing, quick story, that back in New Jersey, there was a band called the Dead End Kids, and that was their trademark song, Midnight
Yeah.
Moses. And so when I heard Karabi and the Dead Daisies doing Midnight Moses, I was like, that's brilliant. That's genius. And it's
Mhm.
still the way the Daisies do it. It's really cool, and
Yeah.
every time
I
I hear
you
it, it reminds
you
me of that.
guys do a good job with it. My introduction to Midnight Moses was Brittany Fox's, another Philly band's interpretation of it.
Okay, I didn't even know they
So
did that. I did not
yeah,
know that.
they did that with John without Dean. They did that with what was his my geez, I like him better than Dean. I forget his name now, but the blonde hair guy, he did one album, Bite Down Hard.
I'm
Anyway.
not sure, but I like the original band. Johnny D's a great friend of ours,
Oh yeah.
and I never met those guys really. That was after I left LA that they
Yeah.
got. I mean, left Philly that they got signed and stuff, and they had that one hit, long way to the. I
Long Way
forget
to
what.
Love. Long
Long
Way to
way to
Love.
love. Yeah,
Yeah, love that. That's what got me into that band. Now, hey, the Dead Daisies released an album in 2024. Light 'em Up. It was released 10 days before I got to see you live here in my hometown. And here at the station, the album collectively ended up at number 3 in our countdown.
that's
Number
amazing.
one for me, it was my number one album of the year. Um, it produced I also produced a 8-part series. I call it the MixFix Blitz of my 200 favorite songs of the year. 5 tracks off Light 'Em Up made the ranks of that countdown, just to show how much that album mean to me. And
No,
what
thank
I
you so
wrote up,
much, man.
oh, you're welcome. We had to write up our top 10 albums, and what I wrote in that was that an excellent album. I said the rush of hearing a full excellent album was achieved with Light 'Em Up. Apparently, it only took you guys 19 days to record this masterpiece. Is that true?
Yeah, we just went in and knocked it out. We wrote, we got together. Like this is one of the things I love about the Dead Daisies is that since I joined the band, we always do everything together, and
Okay,
that's really important. I mean, of course, with technology today, it's super easy. You
right.
could write a song and then you could send it to me, and I could put a guitar on it, and then I write another part, and we piece it together like that. But when you do that, it works. It definitely works, but you miss out on the old school feeling of
Exactly. Yeah.
playing
Well, you
playing
kind
the
of,
song together.
yeah, you
And
kind of
so,
answered a question I was
yeah.
going to ask with that. Like, where do you come into that? Well, thank you. You're right on top. You guys did it together.
Well, so yeah,
Um,
we did it very quickly. We did it in that short time we wrote it together. We were in the studio, so we could actually play and record, and then we could take a break and go listen and go, oh, let's change this and do that, whatever. And then after that, the music was done. We went back and made one more attempt at playing each song, and then we recorded it, and that was it. And then John finished up the lyrics while we were gone. But
right.
we're really happy with it, and glad that you really like it, and really appreciate the support you guys gave us.
I was as thorough. My guys go through hundreds of albums, and I went through hundreds as well. And I'm proud to say it was my number one. Listen,
Thank you.
man, stupid Zoom will probably cut us off in about 10 minutes or so. But I wanted to ask you something along the recording process. Um, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago with panelists debating whether or not music is infinite or limitless. Does that music have an end date? Now, opinions differed from this panel, and some longtime musicians said that humans will run out of music, and others said, nah, it'll last forever. What do you think, man?
Well, I still think we got a long way to go, man.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's just me being naive or whatever, but I every time I pick up the guitar, I learn something, and there's always a new way to do stuff, a
I
new
agree. Yeah, yeah.
chord progression that maybe I'll hear now with the technology of on social media and stuff. You hear all these amazing musicians, and you can see
Yeah.
them play, and I'm like just blown away, flabbergasted by the talent that's out there. And somebody will do something that maybe they don't even think about, and it'll inspire me to go, "Oh wow, that's really cool."
Right, right.
So I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, technically there's only so many notes and there's only so many chord progressions, and you eventually, I think that infinity is a long time. So it's definitely you could mathematically show that it would have an end at some point. But then again, we're always reinventing stuff that we missed, that we forgot
Yeah,
about.
yeah. That's right.
I mean, a lot of the songs that you hear that are songs from the TV shows like The Voice or whatever, those are songs that are old, that are people are
Mhm.
redoing. And
Right,
even a
right,
song
right.
like with the Dead Daisies, Midnight Moses, a lot of people thought that's a Dead Daisies original song because people didn't
Right.
know that song.
Uh-huh.
Same thing with Fortunate Son. When
Yep.
it's one of the most on Spotify, the Dead Daisies have a really great following, and Midnight Moses is up there, but Fortunate Son is one of the all-time biggest streamers. And people are like, "Yeah, what do we love your song, Fortunate Son." It's like, no, that was Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Right. Oh, that's where I
People
know.
that people didn't know, but
All right.
anyway, say you never know, but I think it's going to keep going. Music,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
good,
I
good.
need it. We need it.
I always have fun with this because a friend of mine was a touring member. He was with Alanis Morissette for a while, and I asked him about Spinal Tap moments, and he told me. I asked him this: um, say a stadium catering company served chicken and fish one day after a gig, and everybody that ate the fish became violently ill, including your tour bus driver. All of you guys in the band ate chicken, and you feel fine. Which one of you would be the best to drive the tour bus in the Dead Daisies?
Well,
Who would be the
that's
worst?
that's an easy one. John Corabi would be the guy to drive it because he owns a tour bus. He
That's
has
right.
his own tour bus that he drives, and he knows how to drive. He
Done
actually,
the country
I think,
multiple times.
yeah, I think during back in the day, years and years and years ago, I think he actually learned how to drive an 18 wheeler. So he would be the go-to
Yes,
guy
he
for
did.
that.
Yes. After the
But
music biz, he went into trucking and came back. Yeah.
yeah, and he's very good with machinery. So I think he'd be the guy. He even he and we were on his bus actually. We went down to make light him up. We were on his tour bus
Okay.
to do the writing sessions in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and I remember pulling over at a truck stop and John, and normally on a bus the band never does anything except just ride. But
Right.
John's driving and then he's out there and he's put his gloves on, he's pumping diesel fuel, and it was cool. He
Yeah.
knows what he's doing, and he can go anywhere with that thing.
Okay.
And then the worst driver would probably be
Doesn't have to be with
um
the Daisies. Could be whoever was with you in Whitesnake or Dio.
now we're gonna go with the Daisies. I'm gonna throw this out there because I know some backstory about his driving. I'm gonna say Michael Devin would be the worst. I wouldn't sleep good with Michael driving. I'm sorry, Michael. I love you. You're the most amazing bass player, singer, but I don't know if I would want to go to sleep with you driving the bus, bro.
There you go. um, When you first moved to LA, Doug, how big of a factor was an image for Doug Aldrich? Did you get to be seen the way you wanted to be seen? Like, give you
Well,
an example.
first,
Motley Crue were the bad boys of rock and roll and did everything to live up to that rep. And then you have Twisted Sister, who would always put on a great show through hard work and determination. Did you climb and earn the reputation you wanted?
I'm still working on it, man. I'll get there one day. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's the
I didn't
perfect answer, man.
when I moved out, I mean 18, I moved out and I had never thought about, I mean, I loved the image of guys like Randy Rhoads and Eddie
Yeah.
Van Halen and all my heroes, Michael Schenker, uh, Jimmy Page, and all that stuff. But I was not there, and so I think when I moved out, I had short hair and it was darker, and then I when I was obviously I was probably like 19 or 20 maybe. I had one of my first girlfriends, and she was a hairdresser, and she was like, "Oh, we should put some blonde streaks in your hair," and I was like, "Okay,"
What?
And anyway, but I'm still working on it.
Very good. Now you're looking good, mostly, if not fully recovered from your health scare of 2024. You
Yeah,
missed
man.
out
Thank
on a
you.
European leg. I think Reb took lead on that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Reb,
Red Beach.
Reb he's a legendary player,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
he's a great
Um,
dude, and he was kind enough to. He was actually going to be in Europe doing his own thing, and it just worked out. I had a list of guys, and most of those guys actually were busy. Um, and Reb said, "Oh, I'm going to be in Europe. I couldn't do it." I was like, "Well, wait a minute, because
that's where.
when does your thing end?" And it actually ended like 2 days before he joined up with the Daisies.
Oh,
So it
good.
worked out great. But yeah, I was down for the count for about all in all for a couple months. I'm back now. I feel amazing. I feel so. I mean, I feel grateful and blessed, and you know, except for a few little things I got to, deal with just after any kind of medical thing. You got to relearn how to do certain things. But I'm basically 100% now.
Good, good. And like I said, you're looking great. You're all geared up. You're going to be hitting tour dates in 2025. You're going to do the second leg of Europe, I believe now, right? First off.
Yeah, we're doing in March. We start at the beginning of March. In I believe it's the dates are on the Dead Daisies website, but I believe it's in the
Yes.
Netherlands. I believe we
Yeah.
start. Um, but
So March is not the
please,
festival season. Any festivals lined up too in Europe?
we do. We have some in June, I believe.
Ah, good, good, good.
Grass Pop Meeting Festival is one that we love. It's an amazing collection of bands, and so we're gonna do that. But yeah, definitely people go to thedeaddaisies.com
Well,
and
we
check out. You can get to all the socials. Instagram is really big for the Daisies, and Facebook, of course,
the
Twitter.
the yeah, the Daisies are a band favorite here at CGCM Rock Radio. Trust me, we will let them know where you guys will be. That's a promise.
Awesome.
Now, on that, with all the touring you've done throughout the years and with the various projects you've done, I love to hear this because live music is the best. Is there a particular venue or venues you absolutely love and look forward to playing again and again and again?
Well, I love playing no matter what, and
Yeah,
every venue is like I said, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's like every venue is important to us, and it's a blessing to be there. So I don't want to sound cliche, but I want to be honest. And
yeah, right.
playing up in Ottawa was, I mean, that was amazing. Playing in Montreal at Bell Center with Whitesnake was one.
Oh,
Playing,
Montreal scene is fantastic.
yeah, absolutely. And then there's places in Europe, Hammersmith Odeon. I played a lot with Whitesnake, and the Dead Daisies. We've got some of our favorite places in various areas of Europe. We love to go to Japan. We've been to South America, obviously the U.S.
Right.
We played the Whiskey last year, and I love whiskey's one of the, it's not the biggest place,
Oh no.
but it's one of the most classic rock venues ever. So it's like
Yes,
really,
I got to see Mike Cramp there just December. Now, for an Eastern Canadian boy like me, having the privilege to have gone to the whiskey three times, Billy Idol, I only saw two out of three gigs, so Billy Idol and Mike Tramp in various stages. But yeah, the whiskey, as small as it is, you cannot escape the magic the place holds.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody played there. I mean, there's so many thousands of artists that we all love played there. That
Oh
first
yeah,
time I actually got to meet Randy Rhoads at the Whiskey when I
wow.
first got to LA in 1981, and it is just like my buddy called me up before I had a phone for about 3 months when I first got out here, and then it got cut off. I didn't know how to pay a bill. And he called me and he goes, "Hey Doug, Randy Rhoads is going to play at he's going to sit in with Kevin DeBro at the Whiskey." And I'm like, "The Whiskey? What's that?" He goes, "It's a club." I go, "Randy Rhoads, you mean that English guy from Ozzy Osbourne's band?" He goes, "He's not English, he's from Burbank."
California,
He goes, "I used to take lessons from him." I'm like, "What? That
yeah.
he's from California?" So we go down there and we go, just a couple of kids. I think I had a fake ID that John Crosby had sold me back in Philadelphia. Still had it. He took a razor blade and switched the 6 to 9 or whatever he did. And I go backstage and there's Randy Rhoads. He's like larger than life. And so the
Yeah,
Whiskey is a place of the Daisies. We've played there a few times. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
You know,
I wanted to ask you throughout your touring life, whatever band it was there a Spinal Tap moment you will never forget?
yeah, there's been a couple. There's been
A
a couple
couple,
that
yeah.
I mean, there's stuff where things happen on stage
Oh,
and
what happened?
you're in front of a bunch of people. In fact, speaking of the Grass Pop Festival, I was there with David Coverdale, and for some reason, I think some reason we had to cut a song, and it was just a train wreck, And he got pretty upset with the band, and we just carried on. We kept playing, but I remember him being really, really upset. And I went up to him after. I go, "Dude, I'll take responsibility." And he goes, "Don't ever let that happen again." But and it never did. But yeah, there's always
Yeah,
funny stuff too. Not only Spinal Tap moments are bad things. Spinal Tap moments, when the Stonehenge comes down, it's kind of a bad thing because it's a mini Stonehenge. But there's funny things too.
yeah,
With Dio, I Ronnie, when I was started working with Ronnie, we were back in playing smaller venues. We did a tour that was bigger, but then we went and did our own shows in some smaller venues. And Ronnie left his clothes on the tour bus one day, and I decided I wanted to, I had a few beverages in me, and I decided I wanted to try it on. And I tried to get his stage clothes on, and he's probably up in heaven right now, cursing me. But it was a
yeah.
good, it was a good laugh, and somebody got a photo of it for blackmail purposes, and I didn't get in trouble yet. But there's always stuff with the Dead Daisies. There could be a million things. I mean, like there's been some unfortunate things that happened too. Like there was a festival in England that, you know, it was a really bad rainy weekend or whatever, and the festival was basically flooded out. But
Yeah.
all of Europe was kind of flooded out, and we were not in town, and people were thinking that we couldn't get to the gig, and we basically got in trouble because they said, "Well, why wouldn't the Dead Daisies come? Everybody else came." It was because we were in a different country. We were going to fly there, and the flights were canceled. There was no way to get there. So stuff like that happens. You
Yeah.
can't control it. You just got to roll with it.
Because you're so approachable, I wanted to ask you what if was there anything on your specific on your rider when you'd be on tour? Any specific foods, drinks, or cocktails or whatever extravaganzas that would be on
Um,
your list?
on my list now would probably be just healthy stuff. Because now
Yeah.
that I've gone through the whole cancer thing, I would I need to cut down on sugar. Pretty much alcohol is I'm done with. I might have an occasional glass of wine or something, but not yet really. So there's nothing really. I'm cool with pretty much whatever. Usually in our rider, there is there's a loaf of bread, there's some cold cuts and cheese and stuff like that, and some vegetables, and I'm good. You know, that's pretty much it. But I do, and we love Diet Cokes. I don't know. They have a lot of caffeine in them, and then you know some NA beer might be a good thing coming up because I do like I love Guinness, and Guinness makes a really good NA beer. It's like tastes just like the real thing.
So I've heard.
So so I think it's hard to get probably, but that might be something I would try to get myself and stick it on the rider.
Doug, I don't want us to get cut off, so I'd like the privilege to tell you thank you and goodbye, or till the next time I see you, because
Thanks,
it'll cut
Ben.
out just a snap like that. So
I
I
got you. I got
appreciate
you.
your time this afternoon or morning for you. And please have fun on tour. And thank you again for joining us on CGCM Rock Radio.
Thanks and happy new year to all your listeners. And thank you guys for all you've done for the Dead Daisies. We really appreciate it. And we can't wait to come back and rock out with you guys again.